because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you, because without that wokeness, you might not have that job. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Mika, and we're back for another Red Cup Talks, because this is where truth, pop culture, and politics meet. So I wanted to come on today and talk about Caroline Leavitt, okay? She is the new White House press secretary. And when I say none of the media likes this woman, none of the media likes this woman, especially after yesterday, she decided to go ahead and allow YouTubers, content creators, independent media, all kinds of people that are in the press. She is allowing them to be included in the White House briefings. Now, of course, legacy media hates this, okay? Because they are used to being the only ones in the room to create a narrative. They think they have a lock on what is supposed to be out, what is good information, and what is misinformation. They have been what Donald Trump has called fake news. So with that being said, ABC's The View decided that they were going to go ahead and throw their hat in the ring. You know, the Golden Girls, they always have something to say. I want you guys to see what Whoopi, Cloudy Hostin, and the gang had to say about Caroline Leavitt and the new media. Watch this.
We're also opening up this briefing room to new media voices who produce news-related content and whose outlet is not already represented by one of the seats in this room. We welcome independent journalists, podcasters, social media influencers, and content creators to apply for credentials to cover this White House. This seat in the front of the room, which is usually occupied by the press secretary's staff, will be called the new media seat. My team will review the applications and give credentials to new media applicants who meet our criteria and pass United States Secret Service requirements to enter the White House complex.
All right.
What'd she say?
She basically said that they were going to give
God,
unqualified
how boring.
unqualified people.
See, already they're starting. Cloudy Hostin is talking about, she basically said she's going to give unqualified people a seat in the room. Ma'am, you're unqualified. You're on The View talking, and you're supposed to be a lawyer. You do not do journalism. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. You have a job just giving your opinion. How are you qualified? Why does a lawyer need a legal note? Don't you know what not to say already? And Joy No Heart over there talking about, oh, she's so boring. What is she talking about? Does Joy think she's entertaining? Now that's funny.
So, in other words, instead of Bob Woodward, they want Kim Kardashian? What? I don't get it.
Wait, okay.
I have a question, which is why I was leading us in this direction.
Oh, God.
I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off.
Ooh.
And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you, because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Oh, here we go. The feminist rant. Oh my God, because we marched and we marched and we marched, and look at you. You are benefiting from us marching all those 95,000 years ago.
Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it, and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason, because Black people couldn't get into colleges, because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women.
Yeah.
See, this is not Black, Asian, this is all women. Women were not invited to this party. It was a man's world, and we busted our asses to make sure that this was a person's world. So please stop using that phrase and talking about, because you don't understand what you're saying. You're saying about yourself that, you know, hey, that's a terrible thing to be. It's not a terrible thing to be. That's why we fought. That's what we were fighting for, so that you could stand in that podium, so that Catherine Jean-Pierre could stand at that podium. So women of all kinds of colors and ilks, wherever they came from, whatever their belief system was, they had the opportunity.
Here's the thing. that doesn't mean that we want to listen to you complain. That doesn't mean that you're always correct. That doesn't mean that we want to be feminists. You may have marched, did all this stuff, but guess what? We don't have the same ideology. We don't want the wokeness because we are trying to come together. We're not trying to be divided. Simple.
I think she's probably been put in there because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though. It's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
Whatever I'm saying, this is the first time that she's been she may be. But my point is that job would not maybe have been open to her.
No, I understand. I just wanted
us.
to clarify that.
Yeah.
But on the issue of the new media, because I actually think this is kind of brilliant, and I think future Democratic administrative White Houses should do the same thing. We're realizing this election, how people consume media has drastically changed. This was the Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, Alex Cooper election. It wasn't mainstream old school media that was driving people's interest in what they were following and the stories they were. And I think this is an acknowledgement that Trump realizes this. This is a person who made his career in television.
What's to prevent those media influences from being only on his side?
The same thing that doesn't prevent you from not having Trump derangement syndrome. Same thing. So if you get to be Trump deranged and you and all of the rest of the mainstream media, y'all all speak the same talking points. I mean, there's literally videos of you guys saying the same thing at the same time. Y'all all are saying the oligarchy. Y'all all are Trump deranged. Y'all all have bald-headed reasoning, even if you ain't bald-headed. So I don't mind it. If it's partisan, it's partisan. Y'all have no problem with it. But I doubt it because people in the independent media have integrity, something that you ladies don't have.
I think it was promising that they brought in Axios, which is mainstream, but then they brought in Breitbart, which is a right-wing outlet. And so some of the outlets that had their passes revoked when Biden came in were right-of-center outlets. I don't have a problem with partisan outlets being there as long as it's representative of both sides and you have non-biased traditional media there as well, and that it's fact-driven how they cover it.
The problem that I have with it, though, is, she's saying that these people that are going to apply will meet their criteria. We understand that their criteria is woefully deficient and unserious. Right. I think that their real problem in this election, one of the real problems among the many, is the misinformation and disinformation that was disseminated on social media by these influencers and by these podcasters. Why are they qualified to sit in front in the White House briefing room and tell America what is going on with the country? Traditionally, to become a White House correspondent or to be in that briefing room, you had to have a journalism degree. Yeah. You had to have qualifications. Yeah. So I guess the rise of mediocrity is here.
She's talking about mediocre. Are you talking about yourself, Sonny? Like, you have to be talking about yourself. Everyone knows you have no integrity. You never know what you're talking about in the story. You're always Trump deranged. You always point to a point that nobody is talking about, all right? Everything is racist. How more mediocre can you get than Sonny Hosted? All right. She never knows what she's talking about. She always talks about that she's a lawyer, but yet she always has a legal note. How does that work?
Making a Snapchat equivalent to the New York Times.
No, but you guys are minimizing something really important here. There was a time where there were 3 evening broadcasts for news. Yes. Everyone sat down around the TV and they watched these 3 news outlets. Mm-hmm. Now you look at where people consume news. 54% of American adults say they get news from social media. A large majority of U.S. adults, 86%, say they get at least some of their information. If you don't want mis and disinformation, which is inevitable, obviously, with this administration, but if you want to go directly to the source and have people receive it themselves and put it out to their audiences, I'd rather have them in that room. And influencers are not just the Kardashians. They're also the Brene Browns. Mm-hmm. You've got podcasts like Pod Saves America. There are people that only consume their news from other...
They show up.
And I do think that there are a lot of Americans who do feel like the mainstream media got a lot wrong in recent years. And while there are editorial standards, I don't think that we can definitively say, because you have this degree and you're with this outlet, you've never gotten news information wrong.
Well, I will say this. I feel a lot better when I know there are standards people have to meet.
Yeah.
And so you can bring in
what qualifications, what standards? The New York Times has been sued. Like, what standards are we talking about? The View doesn't know what they are talking about, right? Like, you guys sit here and talk about politics all day. And You don't have a journalism degree. I know Whoopi ain't got one. So what are we talking about? You guys think because you're famous or that you're known that you are the only ones that can talk about it. What makes Sunny hosting an expert?
The proof will be in the pudding.
Mhm.
We can stand and say, this is terrible, but so we're going to wait and see what happens. And the minute it turns out to be state-run television or state-run information or state-run news, because, you know, I disagree that people got stuff wrong. People were, I don't know what people were looking for, because the people I talked to were not looking for the things that these folks were looking for. And now that they've got him, are they getting what they want? So that's just my opinion.
But even on the media front, we haven't gotten to this real quickly this week. The CIA came out and said that COVID very likely came from a lab leak. And the New York Times shut down coverage of that. They wouldn't publish an op-ed by a senator from Arkansas, Tom Cotton, saying that this was a credential theory. At the time I was at DOD and that was openly discussed, is a very real
low
possibility.
Confidence by the CIA.
There is a fact that the media at times has gotten things wrong.
Listen,
so I think
it isn't about whether they get it wrong or right. It's what they do to correct it. That's the problem.
They don't correct it either, because the mainstream media said that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation, and they kept repeating it. You, Whoopi, and the rest of the ballhead crew, y'all kept repeating it. Y'all kept saying, oh, this is Russian disinformation. When it turned, actually, the FBI came out that it was not Russian disinformation. And it came out that Mark Zuckerberg was pressured by the Biden administration to suppress anything that came out about that laptop.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I want.
But it also matters that the CIA said that it was a low confidence report, and that is why the New York Times, which has standards, didn't report on it.
But withholding the information altogether purely and saying that it's not even a considered theory was what the mistake was.
The mistake really is there's too much BS floating out there, and now it's out of our hands. There's no way to control it. So now they're saying they're going to control it. I want to see what they're going to do. I want to see who they're going to invite into this, because quite honestly, I like when we're held to standards. I don't always like the way they do it, but we have to have ourselves together. We can't just say stuff in spite of what they tell you. We can't just spout stuff. So
Girl, you're talking too much. Yeah, at the end of the day, she's talking about, really, that's why they're paying the Sunny. She's talking about that Sunny has to keep those legal notes. When if she was any type of good attorney, she would not have to keep writing a legal note. Ma'am, if you know legally, this is what has been litigated. Why would you keep saying something that's different? Because you're Trump deranged, you're stupid, you're a little on the golden side, and you just don't want to comply because you don't like Donald Trump. So at the end of the day, you are fake news, period. But I could be wrong. So you guys get down in the comments and let me know what you think about the view over here. Just going in on Caroline Leavitt already. Like, she's only had one day. One day. It's been one day. And you guys are already criticizing her because you are the Golden Girls. You got to do something. You got to do something to stay relevant, I guess. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think. It's your girl, Mika, and I'm out. Peace.